Recently, a viral video on Chinese social media platforms such as Douyin and WeChat captured a heart-wrenching scene in Enshi, Hubei, where a 4 or 5-year-old girl was seen foraging for food and empty bottles in a trash bin. This incident occurred on April 28th. The person who shot the video spoke to the little girl. Within the 2-minute footage, the little scavenger looks at the person recording quietly, a pitiful expression on her face. The online community expressed their distress and sorrow over the girl's predicament. Many feared the unthinkable. If instead of a good Samaritan, human traffickers had spotted her, we could save this little girl and her family, noted one user. Tragically, this isn't an isolated case. Another video surfaced on July 23rd, this time in Shanxi, showing a young boy accompanying his grandmother to collect plastic bottles to sell, his tiny frame delving into the trash bins. Another instance from April showcased an elderly man in the bustling, vibrant city of Guangzhou, sipping from a shallow roadside puddle to quench his thirst. A compassionate woman offered him a bottle of mineral water. Despite his initial reluctance and protestations of being unable to pay, she insisted, pushing the bottle into his hands. In tears, the man bowed in deep gratitude. His situation seems almost unimaginable against the backdrop of glittering Guangzhou City, yet millions share his reality. Despite these everyday scenes, the Chinese Communist Party proclaimed a, quote, complete victory in the fight against poverty. At a grand ceremony on February 25, 2021, President Xi Jinping announced that 99 million rural poor had been lifted from poverty, with 832 counties and 128,000 villages eliminating poverty entirely. Official media even hailed this achievement as a miracle in the history of human poverty reduction. The reality on the ground, however, paints a different picture. Young girls scavenging to stave off hunger, boys selling collected plastic bottles for meager sums, and elderly citizens resorting to drinking filthy water to quench their thirst. These heart-wrenching scenes brutally shatter the party's narrative of a poverty-free China. What is the truth behind China's poverty narrative? Tian Li, a teacher from a school in Hunan who saw the video of the girl collecting trash, remarked during an interview with RFI that such phenomena are common in China's impoverished regions. Many households with sick family members find it almost impossible to secure basic livelihoods. This mirrors Premier Li Keqiang's acknowledgement of the nearly 600 million individuals subsisting on a monthly income of less than 1,000 yuan, approximately $130. In contemporary China, it is not uncommon to encounter elderly individuals resorting to scavenging and selling trash for a living, primarily due to the absence of pension provisions and minuscule government assistance. Taking Shanghai, the economic hub of China, as an example, individuals aged 65 to 69 receive a monthly stipend of 75 yuan, approximately $10. The rate goes up slightly with age, but even those above 100 years old are only granted 600 yuan, about $82 monthly. These funds are nearly inconsequential in high-cost Shanghai, let alone in many other cities where subsidies are far lower. For the working class in China, strenuous work only yields scant income, barely enough to meet basic needs. In China's towns, villages, or rural areas, it is commonplace for restaurant workers or supermarket cashiers to only have a couple of days off a month, earning only 2,000 yuan or about $300. Employers do not offer insurance coverage, leaving workers vulnerable to financial ruin in the event of serious illness. According to Hu Xingdou, an economics professor at the Beijing Institute of Technology, in an interview with Voice of America, the poverty threshold set by the Chinese Communist Party aligns with the United Nations extreme poverty benchmark, roughly an income between $1.25 and $1.30 per day. In reality, the number of individuals living in poverty in China exceeds this estimate considerably. If assessed by the World Bank or United Nations standard of $2 per day, several hundreds of millions of Chinese could be categorized as impoverished. Professor Hu emphasized that the official propaganda has generated an illusion regarding their poverty alleviation standards, which are in fact significantly lower than those of the United States, over 20 times lower in fact. This misrepresentation has led some to believe that the U.S., with its 40 million individuals in poverty, lags behind China, which falsely claims a mere 1 million in the same category. As per the data from China's National Bureau of Statistics, last year's poverty threshold in China stood at an annual net income of 3,218 yuan, translating to a daily income of about $1.34. This year, the threshold for escaping poverty has been set at an annual income of 4,000 yuan, or approximately $1.67 a day. This is still lower than the World Bank's definition of extreme poverty, which is set at an income of $1.90 per day. Contrastingly, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, the poverty line in the U.S. in 2020 was defined as a single individual earning less than $12,760 annually, or about 230 yuan daily, and a family of 4 earning less than $26,200 annually, roughly 118 yuan per person per day. The term extreme poverty in the U.S. refers to those with incomes falling below 50% of the aforementioned poverty line standards. As per a 2018 report from the Heritage Foundation, a U.S. think tank, only about 1.5 million individuals in the U.S. were living in extreme poverty. In addition to setting exceedingly low standards for poverty alleviation, the CCP has been accused of overpromising and indulging in a new round of propaganda reminiscent of the Great Leap Forward of the early 1960s. For instance, in November 2020, the CCP declared that 9 impoverished counties in Guizhou had risen above the poverty line. However, as of early 2020, these counties were still classified as impoverished, indicating an average income of less than 4,000 yuan per person. If this is true, that means that within 11 months, the average income in these counties skyrocketed nearly 2.8 times. Regrettably, the CCP's media outlets have not extensively publicized these startling developments, not due to oversight, but arguably because even the CCP finds these figures too absurd, fearing that further promotion might expose the falsehood. Moreover, the CCP's official media outlets revealed the existence of shoddy construction projects dubbed tofu dreg projects. In 2018, due to relocation efforts in the Poverty Alleviation Program, the government of Xinhua County in Lodi City, Hunan Province, constructed 12 resettlement buildings housing 189 families or 808 villagers from Mengong Town. Not long after moving in May 2019, the villagers noticed significant quality issues with their homes, including cracks in external walls, uneven fissures appearing on ceilings and floors, missing rebar in the beams, and pervasive leaks in bathrooms, kitchens, and even bedrooms. Ms. Wang, one of the residents interviewed, mentioned that her home's bedroom and living room floors had to be reinforced with additional beams, otherwise just stamping her foot would cause noticeable shaking. Other residents also remarked that the floors wobble noticeably as people walk within the houses. A construction worker responsible for the reinforcement stated that all 12 buildings require fortification, with only 2 houses currently serving as models for the renovations. A growing number of villagers have already relocated due to fears of potential building collapse. The CCP's habitual deception and obfuscation in governance have turned the comprehensive poverty alleviation campaign into a hollow political show. The early CCP reform and opening up slogan, which advocated allowing some people to get rich first, then helping others to prosper together, now seems to resonate less, with recent data suggesting that China is moving further away from achieving a uniform level of prosperity. Amidst the Chinese government halting the publication of youth unemployment rates, the current wealth gap in China has widened to its highest point since records began in 1985. Citing data released by the Chinese National Bureau of Statistics, Nikkei Asia reported an escalating disparity in individual incomes within urban areas in China. Presently, the income of the top 20% of urban families is 6.3 times that of the bottom 20%. Moreover, the income of the wealthiest 20% of families increased by 4.5% in 2022 compared to 2021, while the poorest 20% saw a mere 1.3% growth, exacerbating the wealth gap. The situation is even more dire in rural areas, with the income gap between the richest and poorest segments reaching a staggering 9.2 times. A report by UBS Group and its subsidiary Credit Suisse highlighted that the wealthiest 1% of the population in China now control over 31% of the nation's wealth. Analysts identify the burgeoning debt problem as one of the reasons contributing to the growing wealth gap, as affluent families and enterprises holding substantial assets benefit from the interest generated from deferred debt resolutions, leaving the impoverished populace and small enterprises helpless amidst economic downturns. Chinese independent economist Gongshen Li posited that state-owned enterprises in China, backed by government guarantees, enjoy a stable economic status with many opaque dealings, while small and medium private enterprises and their employees are left to grapple with the fluctuations of the economic landscape, a situation that exacerbates the wealth gap. Perhaps fearing a loss of face, the CCP has intensified its crackdown on wealth-flaunting activities over the past few years. In 2021, the popular social media app Douyin removed over 2,800 videos displaying opulent wealth, penalizing nearly 4,000 accounts. Nowadays, Chinese millionaires are adopting a more understated lifestyle. Voice of America spotlighted the spouse of a director of a large firm in Xinjiang, who maintains a modest lifestyle, having simple meals with friends and only indulging during occasional social engagements. She dedicates her free time to fitness and limits herself to 2 or 3 international trips per year. Moreover, extravagant expenditures on luxury items amounting to millions of yuan are now rare, all to avoid being tainted with the stigma of flaunting wealth. Ironically, amid the profound challenge posed by hundreds of millions living in poverty in China, the CCP seems to spare no expense in crafting its self-promoting billboards, which are part of, quote, party-building campaigns. On September 12th, the CCP magazine Bi-Monthly Talk exposed massive investments in recent large-scale party-building infrastructure projects. These included colossal billboards, some spanning tens of meters in length and towering over 10 meters high. Near a highway exit in a central Chinese village, a gigantic party-building billboard, estimated to be over 30 meters long and 10 meters high, cost more than 440,000 yuan. The entrepreneur handling this project noted several other projects for the year, ranging in the millions, which are either in negotiations or in the design phase. In a leisure and culture square in northern China, a party-building slogan consisting of 12 massive red characters caught the spotlight. According to the contractor named Huang, each character is 6 meters long and 6 meters high, with the manufacturing and installation costs totaling 311,800 yuan. On January 9th of this year, an Eastern Cities government procurement website announced the winning bid for 4 community building projects in a township, with the transaction amounting to over 4.87 million yuan. Recent bidding documents for local party-building billboards and cultural wall projects indicate a shift toward more luxurious materials, including aluminum alloys, stainless steel, and marble, replacing the previously used cement and acrylic. Some regions are continuously innovating, envisioning new projects such as party-building stations, squares, parks, and complexes. These developments often occupy substantial land and require significant investment. For instance, a central city has proposed a party-building theme park spanning approximately 19,000 square meters with an estimated budget of 15 million yuan, while another in the southwest plans a park with a staggering investment of over 70 million yuan. Twitter users have loudly criticized this extravagance, with one remarking, "State assets and the private wealth are squandered at will to add luster to their own image." Another lamented, "The hard-earned wealth of the people is being wasted like this." Indeed, the CCP cannot be understood within the conventional concept of a political party. While it presents itself as a political entity, its essence is more akin to a criminal syndicate that leeches off the state and its citizens. Since its establishment in 1949, the CCP has never disclosed its party assets, essentially equating state assets with party assets. Similarly, it has never made public department budgets, revealing only government and corporate budgets. During a press conference at the National People's Congress on March 11, 2016, CCP officials admitted that the party's funding is sourced from the populace. Yang Shaozheng, A former professor at the Economics School of Guizhou University once criticized the CCP's use of public funds for party sustenance. He was sentenced to 4 years and 6 months in prison on charges of inciting subversion of state power. In articles published overseas, he alleged that the CCP utilizes tax revenues and state asset profits to sustain around 20 million full-time party workers and some non-party association staff annually, amounting to an estimated societal loss of around 20 trillion yuan. He warned that if this situation persists, societal collapse is inevitable. Some foreigners find it perplexing that despite China's economy soaring to become the second largest in the world, the nation is still riddled with poverty. During the decades of economic reform, where Chinese worked incredibly hard, their standards of living have mostly stayed flat. A majority of the wealth either ends up in the pockets of the elite or is utilized by the CCP for maintaining stability and military expenses, or flaunted internationally in a display of largesse. 9 Commentaries on the Communist Party, a book banned in China, illustrates this with an example from a forestry station in eastern Sichuan. There, 500,000 yuan allocated for tree planting was grossly misappropriated by layers of intermediaries before a meager sum reached the local laborers. The government does not worry about the laborers declining the work due to low payment. They are so poor that they are guaranteed to accept any wages offered. The same principle explains the low cost of made-in-China products. Why did the CCP initiate reforms and opening up after 1978? As acknowledged by the state media Xinhua, the Cultural Revolution from 1966 to 1976 brought the national economy to the brink of collapse. The objective of the reform and opening up was to stimulate economic growth by loosening restrictions on the populace, securing the role of the CCP elite, but not truly considering the welfare of the people. During Hu Jintao's tenure, Mao Zedong's doctrines were conspicuously avoided in official discourse, with a greater emphasis on Deng Xiaoping's theories promoting economic reform. However, with the advent of Xi Jinping's leadership at the 18th CCP National Congress, the promotion of Mao Zedong's ideologies regained primacy, illustrating the pattern of the CCP constantly altering its strategy to preserve its rule. Presently, the curriculum in Chinese primary schools all the way to university levels include the doctrines of Xi Jinping alongside those of Mao Zedong. Students unable to reproduce the standard answers provided in textbooks fail their exams, hindering their graduation. Furthermore, university students are mandated to engage in weekly study sessions on Xi Jinping thoughts through WeChat public accounts, a practice resembling self-indoctrination. Even many rural inhabitants are coerced by village officials to install the Study Xi Strong Nation mobile app and share daily study snapshots in WeChat groups in order to meet learning quotas set by higher authorities. Amid internal strife and external pressures, Xi Jinping has regressed China back to the era of personal cult worship, reminiscent of the Mao Zedong period, further jeopardizing the future of China's economy. Recently, Hong Kong media reported that Shenzhen border inspection agencies have been intercepting dozens of mainland Chinese individuals daily, attempting to enter the United States via South America with a layover in Hong Kong. The majority are middle-aged individuals who have either lost their jobs or suffered business failures. Between January and February this year, the number of Chinese illegal migrants entering Panama through the perilous Darien Gap jungle witnessed a sharp spike, reaching approximately 2,200 individuals, a stark increase from the 71 recorded cases during the same period last year. The CCP once projected an illusion of reform and relaxation to the world. However, in hindsight, these were merely expedient measures. The party has not veered away from its authoritarian and tyrannical nature, perpetuating the oppression and indoctrination of the Chinese people. The semblance of freedom bestowed upon the populace can be retracted at any moment, with the recent lockdown in Shanghai serving a glaring testimony to this fact. Chinese citizens have historically been a hard-working community. The poverty among Chinese is not attributable to the people themselves, but rather to the authoritarian and corrupt reign of the CCP. The regime has seized the fruits of the Chinese people's labor, embodying the fundamental conflict of interest between the party's benefits and the genuine welfare of the Chinese people.